topic of the hour, new Fox News poll shows former President Trump leading President Biden in two crucial swing states. If voting were held today, Trump leads with 49% of the vote to Biden's 45% of all registered voters in Arizona. Trump is also leading in Pennsylvania. He's got 49% of voters there compared to Biden's 47%. Joe, you just mentioned some of these states, these swing states. Your reaction?
Look, I think the hard truth is that you take the pulse on Main Street right now. They recognize they are less safe today than they were 4 years ago, and their bank account is in worse shape than it was 4 years ago. The savings that were depleted because of the spending, the inflation that is decimating any of the increases in the wages. So, yeah, I think those numbers do tell the pulse of Main Street. But the real question is, in an election where 70% of the people have already said they don't want the rematch, where does that tiny sliver of persuadable voters go? I think that's really a coin flip. What does the world look like that morning of Election Day 2024 when people are going to the ballot? And right now, it's still hard to say what is that October surprise in the geopolitics of it all that might tip the scales.
Well, the Republicans are worried about illegals voting. And Lara Trump told me, now the head of the RNC, along with Michael Whatley, that this is going to be her number one priority.
Yeah, I mean,
will they be able to actually ensure a transparent election?
I'll say this. The Republican Party has a once-in-a-generational opportunity to build a new majority. There are black people in Chicago, the south side of Chicago, crying for the Republican Party to show up. Will we heed the lesson? It is not about simply trying to scare people about immigration. It is about the unfairness of the migrant policies. People who've been here 100 years, 200 years, who are getting worse treatment today at the hands of government than people who've been here for 48 hours are receiving.
It's unbelievable,
That is
actually.
the opportunity.
You're right. The same Fox News polls show that the economy has now become the number one issue. This is for voters in Arizona and Pennsylvania, Chris. The majority of registered voters calling it extremely important. President Biden and Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen spoke on the economy yesterday. Watch this.
Wages are rising faster than prices, and now we have among the lowest inflation rates of any country in America.
And the statistic that I think captures things best is if we compare where the median worker is now is compared to 2019, just before the pandemic, that worker can buy the same bundle of goods as before with $1,400 left over to save or spend. So wages have gone up considerably, and that's more than offset for the typical household the impact of higher prices.
Wow. More than offset. Where's she getting that?
All right, come on. So the median household income, just let's do the math. The median household income is like $74,500. Okay? $1,400 a month after you make your mortgage payment, after you pay your car payment, after you put food on the table. You're telling me that family has $1,400 a month in discretionary dollars that they can save or spend on discretionary purposes? There's absolutely no way. That would be like a 30 to 35% net savings rate, close to impossible, and they're delusional. Just because wages may have outpaced inflation over the last 12 months, inflation's a cumulative effect. And when you go back to January of 21, when President Biden came into office, prices are up 18.6% over that time frame. Wages up 14, 15%. Wages have lagged. Inflation is killing the average American. And voters, they don't care that Nvidia hits a new all-time high every day. The average voter doesn't care.
That's right.
The average voter cares that they can't afford to buy eggs for Easter.
Let me take out my inflation tracker. I've got it right here. The inflation tracker is in my hands, okay? Motor vehicle insurance, Chris, up 20%. This is year over year. Sewing machines, fabric supplies up 11%. Admission to sporting events up 11%. Tax return preparation 9%. Look, you've got the inflation spreading out to services now. It's up 18% on Joe Biden's watch. Sure, it's down from the highs, but you're still seeing a major pressure. And he's not stopping the spending. He's pushing through his student loan forgiveness. That's just more stimulus.
It's unbelievable. The savings savings rate's at 2%, not the 14 they're talking about, 2%. And the fact is the interest rates kicked in, student loans kicked in last October. These people are drowning, and they're telling them everything's fine.
Yeah.
And people are aware of that, and that's what's going to happen. I think at the end of the day, that's why they're winning people over in Chicago. At the end of the day, people realize this narrative is a false narrative.
They also realize that inflation got so high because of all of the excessive spending.
Absolutely.
We all know how this happened. It was just one of the coincidence that prices all of a sudden go to 40-year highs.
No, it's greedy
Joe.
corporations, Maria.
Yeah.
Greedy that $2 DoorDash charge, that's killing us all.
Oh, no, it's the Snickers bars.
Well, to
Okay.
that point,
Yeah, right. It's
Men
Snickers'
lie,
fault.
women lie, numbers, they do not lie. The American people realize when their electric bill is going through the roof.
Yeah.
They recognize when they're literally looking at the highest levels of auto defaults we've seen since the actual Great Recession. When you're looking at the fact that we have the highest level of credit card debt in the history of America and the highest rate of interest since we started tracking the statistic in 1994, a popular year these days, that's what we're dealing with right now. So, look, the Biden administration can talk about Bidenomics all they want, but that's what people are actually focused on. Am I better off today than I was 4 years ago? These policies are sending us in the wrong direction.
And don't forget about oil and gasoline.
Right.
This is really the underlying component that is keeping inflation elevated, even though you're looking at declines in some areas. And that is because of the president's climate change agenda.
Well, look,
he's locking off fossil fuels, and that is not only an economic issue, but a national security one.
If you look at where the country needs to be, we need a blended economy. That means natural gas. That means nuclear energy. Two things that we know actually help Democrats hit the actual reductions in emissions that they claim they want.
Yeah.
Everything they do is to pass policies that take the environment and the economy in the opposite direction and drive us into the hands of dictators around the globe that hate America and have absolutely no interest in anything they claim are the issues that are going to turn the world into a burnt out